evening and welcome to the Coon Rapids City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. I'd like to invite the scouts up from Pack 516 to lead us in the pledge. Come on right up in front here, guys, or folks. And step way up, step way up, step way up, step way up. Perfect. There we go. If we could, everybody would rise and join us for the pledge. No, here's the flag over here, guys. Here we go. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. See you right there, guys. All right, go ahead and face forward. Apparently this was the police chief's pack as well. I'm going to let you, if you would just like to introduce yourself, and if somebody wants to tell us why you're here, is anybody comfortable telling us why you're here? Okay, otherwise they'll pick out your cub master, you know. All right, well then just introduce yourself. How's that?
My name's Gabe Nearing.
My name is Owen Johnson.
My name is Calvin Keller.
My name is Xavier Berger.
All right.
My name's Elijah Stevenson.
Okay. Are you here for the community, citizens in the community? Is that what it is? Okay. All right. Well, you guys got lucky. Usually there's a pre-meeting with me when they come in for that. So you dodged that bullet so far anyway. Thanks for leading us in the pledge. Thanks for being here, and carry on. We'll try and make this not boring for you. All right, please call the roll.
Councilmember Griscoviac.
Here.
Councilmember Rayrauer.
Here.
Councilmember Novak.
Here.
Councilmember Geisler.
Here.
Councilmember Armstrong.
Here.
Councilmember Carlson.
Here.
Mayor Cook.
Here. Thank you. Why don't we adopt this evening's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Carlson. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. Next is the approval of the minutes from the August 15th meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Motion by Carlson and a second by Novak to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. One abstention, Councilmember Rayrauer. I just do that. All right, we have 3 items on our consent agenda this evening. And the first one is item 2 on our agenda, and that's to adopt resolution 23-83, accepting grant funds from the state of Minnesota for the Minnesota OSHA Workplace Safety and Resolution 2384 budget amendment. City staff recently submitted a grant application to the state of Minnesota through its Department of Labor, Industry, and I've never seen MNOSHA before, so it's throwing me off, but apparently it's Minnesota OSHA, Workplace Safety Consultation Unit for a hydrant saver. And the city was awarded $6,400 towards the purchase, which is a 50% match. And the hydrant saver allows maintenance staff to remove components of fire hydrants and replace internal valves without excavation or impact on the surrounding area. An external power unit is needed to run it. And the 2024 proposed water fund budget includes the replacement of Unit 208 with specialized equipment to assist with hydrant and pump maintenance work. And the replacement vehicle will include a hydraulic power unit, which is something not available on the current truck. At any rate, this is way more details than anybody wants. But the grant expires on November 11th, 2023. So if council approves this evening, we cannot wait until 2024 to purchase the hydrant saver, and the budget amendment request is for $22,283, which is the total cost of the power unit and hydrant saver. The city will have to cover 100% of the upfront costs, and then we'll get reimbursement. We'll seek reimbursement of the $6,400 grant amount. So we're looking to adopt Resolution 23-83, accepting grant funds from the state of Minnesota through its Department of Labor and Industry, Minnesota OSHA Workplace Safety Consultation Unit, and Resolution 23-84, budget amendment. The next item on our consent agenda, which is item 3, is to approve a therapeutic massage enterprise license for Fiona's Day Spa, 212, we had too many numbers in there.
That's correct. The actual address is 12685.
There we go, 12685 Riverdale Boulevard, thank you. She has submitted an application for massage enterprise licensing, paid the background investigation and license fee, provided proof of the required liability insurance and proper educational documentation, and passed the background investigation. Approval is contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of occupancy by the Building Inspections Department. So we're looking to approve the issuance of a therapeutic massage enterprise license to Fiona's Day Spa LLC, located at 12685 Riverdale Boulevard Northwest, room 24, pending the issuance of a certificate of occupancy by the Building Inspections Department. And then the third and final item on the consent agenda, which is item 4 this evening, is to adopt Resolution 23-90, approving a Parks and Recreation Commission appointment. Grace Bayron, sorry, Grace, if that's not how you pronounce it, applied for the Parks and Recreation Commission. After discussion with the applicants and attending recent meetings, the Parks and Recreation Commission supports appointing Grace Bayron to fill the vacancy with a term ending in 2024. So we're looking to adopt Resolution 23-90, appointing Grace to the Parks and Recreation Commission. And that is our consent agenda.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Rayrauer.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Rayrauer and a second by Novak. Is there any discussion or questions on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember
I
Griscoviac.
do have a question on the first item on the consent agenda, accepting the grant funds from the MNOSHA. First of all, I applaud the Public Works Department, Tim Himmer, for getting us these grant dollars to get this unit. It's going to save a lot of back-breaking work, really, what it looks like, and workplace safety, of course, number one. But I had a question on the hydraulic power source that's needed to run this thing. In the packet, it says that a hydraulic power source is ordered on our 2024 F-450 that's coming. And I know we can't use something from 2024 right now. But my question is, are we going to have a portable power unit as well as that one mounted to the F-450? That's my first question.
Councilmember Griscoviac, we do have a portable unit now. It's just a very large generator on a trailer, so having to cart that around just for this tool would be something we'd like to avoid. So buying this unit now, it would be instead of buying it next year. So next year it would come as part of the truck, part of the equipment on the truck. So it's a portable mobile unit that will be based solely on that for our lift stations and our hydrant repairs.
So for the truck purchase in 2024, it won't have that?
It will not be mounted to the truck. It will be a mobile, so we can put it in our water main break trailers and things like that if we needed to do so.
Okay. All right, I think that makes sense. We're not going to wind up with 2 of these portable power units because, in my opinion, a portable power unit kind of goes against the idea of having this big piece of equipment because the portable power unit's so heavy to move around in.
By buying it now, we avoid buying it next year. So
that's the clarification.
yes,
I'm good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Was that it, Mr. Stemwell? Okay, I saw your hand up. All right.
And Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler.
just real quick, I want to thank Grace for raising her hand and joining the Park and Recs Commission. And make a note, Ms. Lensmeyer, do we have other openings on our commissions that we want to make sure that people know about?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Geisler, yes, there are openings on arts, and there's an opening on the Planning Commission. So if you're interested, go out and find the application on our website. We have a new form. It's an online form that you just click through the boxes, so it should be more efficient.
So, thank you. So just with that, it's an easy process. If you're interested in participating, these voluntary commissions are a great way to get engaged in what we do and encourage people to raise their hand, just like Grace did. So thank you.
And we'll probably mention it again in other business. But all of this is in the city newsletter that just came out in the mail, and it talks about the commissions and the process in there. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion on this, on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the consent agenda is adopted. Item 5 is to consider the 2023-2 miscellaneous assessment levies uncontested. So we are looking to hold an assessment hearing to collect written appeals. But Ms. Hanson, is there anything you wanted to cover before we open the assessment hearing?
Just as of the end of the day here, we have 11 parcels that have submitted a written appeal.
We have 11 so far that have submitted a written appeal. Okay. So this is the final opportunity to submit an appeal if you want to appeal these assessments. Is there anybody? All right, well, so we'll open that. Does anybody have an assessment appeal that they would like to file, record? Anybody have an assessment appeal? Okay, then, does do enough? Okay, then, all right, then we're gonna close that. And then we'd be looking for, and do you want, they can do B, C, and D all together, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 23-85, adopting the 2023 Sub-2 miscellaneous special assessments, unopposed 1 year. And a motion to adopt Resolution 23-86, adopting the 2023 Sub-2 miscellaneous special assessments, unopposed 3 year. And make a motion to adopt Resolution 2387, adopting the 2023 Sub-2 miscellaneous special assessments, unopposed 7 year.
Second.
So the motion by Geisler and a second by Armstrong. And for anybody that hasn't looked at the packet, the difference between the 1 year, 3 year, and 7 years is just the amount. The greater the amount, the more time you have to pay it back. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion, those motions carry, I should say. Item 6 is to consider adoption of Ordinance 2287 to regulate use of cannabis in public by adding Chapter 7-800. Mr. Brody, do you want to hit the highlights on this one?
I can, Your Honor. Mayor and Council, as we introduced at the last council meeting, this is a prohibition of the use of cannabis in public. It limits that use to the private residences, private property that's not generally accessible to the public, and then when establishments or licenses do get licensed once that comes on board. It's very similar to how we treat the use of alcohol in public, if not identical, or that's at least the intent of it. There is a penalty of a petty misdemeanor, which is the maximum penalty that's allowed for under the state statute. So that's what we're proposing here. Like I said, we've talked about it. It is going to limit use of cannabis flower, cannabis products, lower potency, hemp edibles, hemp-derived consumer products in those public places.
Very good. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Brody on this?
Your Honor,
Councilmember Novak?
I've heard from a lot of my constituents on this one, and every one of them has implored me to put as much of a limitation on it as possible. So I move that we adopt Ordinance 2287, adding Chapter 7-800 as it relates to the use of cannabis in public.
Second.
Motion by Novak and a second by Rayrauer. Is there further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Rayrauer?
I would just add that this is a common sense regulation, and thinking about it as a substance similar to alcohol, just putting on a common sense ordinance here. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 7 is to consider planning case 23-16, consider use flexibility, innovation, science, and technology academy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't want to spend too much time. I know we just had a work session on this item. Just want to kind of highlight the overall decision that you're asked for tonight and kind of go through those criteria. So here again, the applicant's requesting approval of use flexibility for a public charter school, and that's at 3397 Coon Rapids Boulevard in Round Lake Shops. That site is currently zoned general commercial and is located in our River Rapids overlay district. Our zoning code currently permits public schools and kind of educational uses to residential zoned districts. But in this overlay district, we can approve a use flexibility to allow a use that's not otherwise permitted by the zoning code. And so the applicant tonight is Innovation Science and Technology Academy. They're a public charter school serving about 80 students from pre-K to 7th grade. And their vision is to create globally conscious student innovators and kind of focusing on kind of STEM principles in education. So again, just kind of a zoom in of Round Lake Shops. Where they're proposing is on the west end of the site here. There used to be Premier Disability. It was kind of a call center in that location, and it's since been vacant for the past year when Premier Disability had moved out. Just want to highlight here on their revised site plan from the Planning Commission discussion, again, kind of located on the west end of the site here, kind of classrooms pre-K through 7th grade and an indoor gym and play area, and the bus circulation and parking for the facility would be kind of designated on that smaller parking lot on the west to the school, kind of adjacent to the school itself. Here is just a floor plan, if that's helpful. Again, kind of showing classrooms pre-K through 7th grade. There is a computer and innovation lab for kind of more hands-on learning and for their STEM programming, cafeteria, offices, and then again that indoor gym and play space area. So then looking at the use flexibility, there's kind of 4 criteria that you're asked to kind of look at and evaluate. So the first being that the use flexibility is necessary due to unique circumstances of the site. The property owner in their narrative has indicated that there's kind of changing retail trends, and what was once kind of a major retail center, they haven't had kind of traditional retail uses in that space with, again, most recently the call center use there, and felt like this school was kind of an appropriate use for where they're seeing kind of retail trends for their facility. This site is adjacent to residential districts where we, again, zone those educational uses. And kind of given some of the surrounding area on the property, it's probably unlikely that we're going to see new commercial development kind of in adjacent properties. You have the kind of large antenna tower to the east. You have U-Haul that's pretty well established and recently expanded on the west. To the north, again, is kind of established residential neighborhoods. And then to the south, you have kind of a nature preserve area through the Anoka Ramsey Community College. The second item to look at is if it results in kind of gained efficiencies of the site. Just want to highlight here, again, would utilize vacant space on the west side of the site and kind of the revised circulation plan to utilize that west parking lot. I think helps make the area a little bit more efficient, kind of separates it from the main parking lot and some of the main circulation routes through that site and the other uses. And then that a new kindergarten and elementary school could bring a public amenity to the city. And then looking at the third criteria is related to site amenities, buffers, and other elements. This proposal is exempt from a lot of those dimensional and design criteria that we identify in the River Rapids Overlay District. Those really pertain to more new construction projects or major redevelopment of sites. Here they're utilizing an existing building on the site, not making any improvements to the exterior building, not expanding the footprint of the building. So it's really exempt from a lot of the site amenity criteria in our plan. So again, this really applies more to new construction and major redevelopment. And then finally, if it advances the intent of River Rapids Overlay District and the identified port districts along the boulevard, staff felt like the public charter school use is compatible with the intent of the overlay and wouldn't detract from the other port districts. I think those port districts are intended to provide more clustering of commercial and mixed uses and residential, with the gaps kind of in between, again, providing maybe more residential or service uses, kind of connecting between those ports. And so staff had made a recommendation to the Planning Commission at its August 17th meeting to recommend approval. After some discussion with the council, they did recommend denial of the use flexibility for the charter school. So you'll see in the staff report kind of two options if you would like to go along with the denial recommendation from the Planning Commission. Staff identified a finding you could make to deny the use flexibility, or if you would like to amend or reject the decision of the Planning Commission, staff had identified some conditions that you could attach to that to just help reiterate some of the use flexibility criteria. So happy to answer any questions you might have. I know we were able to discuss this in a pre-council work session as well, but just wanted to give some of those highlights for the public.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Crowell? I think this was kind of put in motion 10 or 11 years ago when it was the building was completely remodeled for that call center for office. And what we found was that wasn't terribly compatible with having a bar and restaurant there, because there wasn't enough parking for as many as employees that they had in there, and then for as many people that would show up to eat or to whatever. So there was always parking issues. Now we've got this use that's kind of set up for no longer retail. It's been vacant for quite a while. And the school, while not really an ideal use, isn't going to require a lot of parking, and probably does complement the bar restaurant there somewhat, because they'd be kind of operating at different times, different peak times anyway. So, I don't know, all that to say, I'm just still throwing it out there.
Your Honor.
Councilmember Rayrower?
I would add this one was really tough for me. I've been thinking about it a lot, both last week and this week, and during the work session that we had discussing it before this regular business meeting. There's just a lot involved in making the decision. Things that will affect my decision include parking, as mentioned by the mayor. Thinking about whether there is available outdoor green space, playground area for kids to run and play, and the impact on nearby businesses. Those are all things that I'll be considering in making the decision. But it was very tough, and I absolutely appreciate the folks from the charter school coming here and answering our questions, and I think it is a fabulous plan and design, so it's not related to that at all.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
Yeah, so for me, the charter school is a wonderful school. It's a wonderful idea. It's a wonderful thing to have. My concern with it that, is the one I can't get over is that it is, we know, right? So we just introduced we adopted our cannabis ordinance for outdoor cannabis. We know that the state, because of the cannabis laws, there's more laws coming in this next year about use and whatnot. And if they follow pattern, which we expect them to, there are things that can't happen within 1,000 feet of a school. And so knowing that that is coming, that the restaurant that is here and established is within 1,000 feet of this location. So what my concern is by going outside and granting flexibility, what we are doing is we are putting a restriction also on that existing business of what they can do in the future. And And to me, that is a step too far. Would love to see the charter school somewhere else in the city. I'd love to have staff work to see if we can find the right space for them. But for me, putting that restriction and changing the ability to operate for the existing business, and yes, I know that the cannabis law isn't here yet, but we know it's coming. And that, to me, is a reason why I can't support the change.
And to be clear, this won't impact anything they're currently doing. It won't impact their liquor license or anything like
Correct.
that. It would, but it could impede their ability to use or to sell THC-infused drinks in the future.
And
So-
yeah, and to me, there's, if we look at other cities and states that have this, what you would take away is a basically competitive advantage, or give competitive advantage to other local restaurants that could sell that. And that, if I had a decision and that's something I wanted, I would not ever choose this restaurant. And would I hurt that restaurant? And would I lose that restaurant potentially? Because people would make other decisions. I'm sure not everybody, but there would be some that would. And it's a risk that I'm not interested in taking.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Carlson.
I could go on all night about the advantages of this school. Small classroom sizes, wonderfully diverse, racially, culturally, economically diverse. Free of charge, small classrooms, again, a STEM school, wonderful school. We wouldn't have, this would be the first elementary age STEM school we would have in this city, and it would provide choices to parents. I certainly understand the concerns about the restaurant. With this particular case, the landlord wants this, and gun companies wants this. The school certainly wants it. And I'm also impressed, by the way, Mr. Kroll, you and Mr. Hebert worked with the school to address the concerns that were brought up at the August 17th Planning Commission meeting. You certainly addressed the concerns of that night, that were brought up that night, and I appreciate that. And so, because I think that this school would be such an asset to this city and potentially to the children in this city, I will support this school.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Novak.
I'd like to echo everyone else who said that I am very impressed with this particular charter school and in the idea of school choice in general. A lot of work has gone into making this plan fit in this area, and to me, it always comes down to a balance. And on one side, I have a single business's ability to possibly do something in the future that it may or may not need to do. And on the other side, I've got school choice for kids, and I have to take the school choice for kids on that one.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Griscoviac.
Yeah, I echo that. I'm all for school choice, and I think this would be a good addition to our community. And to other council members' concerns about parking, I listened to the Planning Commission. There was concerns about parking. There was concerns about disruption to neighbors to the north in their townhomes up there. And then, and both of those have been addressed already. So we really don't see a parking issue, and we don't see any disruption to the neighbors. The main thing is going to be, to Councilmember Geisler's point, the conflict with our existing, industry or business there, specifically the Boulevard Bar and Grill. So, again, to Dakota, if I could ask you, if we granted this use flexibility and the school went in there, is the Boulevard going to have any issue renewing their liquor license?
They will not on their liquor license, so it doesn't impact their current liquor license. If the school were to locate here, it wouldn't impact future liquor licenses. Really, the impact as to what was kind of brought up by the council was their potential ability, if they want to have THC-infused drinks or kind of those low-potency cannabinoids, those have that distance requirement from a school, so they wouldn't be able to get a license for that if they chose and wanted to sell that product.
So the Boulevard wouldn't be, quote, grandfathered in with a liquor license. They would be meeting all of the state statute for a liquor license. In fact, in other words, there is no space limit for a liquor license to a school.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Krasnoviak, as it relates to a bar restaurant operation, there's no proximity issue.
Okay, so no proximity issue. And the way we just introduced the cannabis use ordinance just now, we kind of followed the liquor license, the way, the way we're regulating liquor. And so perhaps the state would come to a conclusion like that with what they're going to be selling inside that restaurant.
Who knows?
No?
Who knows?
Who knows? So, my biggest concern is the conflict with the existing business.
Mr. Crowell, so one of the things that you're suggesting is, we've got two paths here. One is to deny the use flexibility, and the other one is to approve the use flexibility. And under the approve the use, there is a mention, if the school were to provide an outdoor playground or amenity in the future, it should be properly screened and be located in a way not to disrupt circulation of the site. I don't think that the circulation is as much of an issue as just the noise. The noise of, I love the noise of kids playing outside, but if I'm living in my little retirement townhome on the north side of it, having my coffee on the patio at 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe I don't want to hear that. Is there a way that we would be able to say that they're saying that this 2,000 square foot indoor gym meets what they need? Is there a way to say that then that's what you've got? And if you require in the future outdoor playground, you're going to have to find a different space?
Yeah, I guess that could be one route. I think maybe the intent on that condition, and it was kind of intentionally vague a little bit, was to, if they felt like they needed an outdoor space in the future, we would, I think, just trying to screen it from what we heard from the Planning Commission discussion in the public hearing to see if we could provide additional landscaping or fencing. Yeah, it could be, if it just tried to not to disrupt the circulation of the site, might kind of prohibit anywhere on that site they could provide some kind of outdoor playground, and they'd have to look for an off-site facility. We just kind of had it there to maybe address if there was some concern about a future playground, that they'd be working with us through kind of permits, and we could address some of those things.
But just to finish my question then,
Yeah.
couldn't we say that if this comes up in the future, you'll have to come back for approval of anything outdoor?
Yeah, I believe we could do that if we wanted to be more specific, yeah.
Yes, that's correct. These three suggested conditions are conditions that have been suggested by staff. Certainly the council with use flexibility does have some discretion over this and could modify or add or subtract conditions. So if you were to modify that condition to say that under this approval, the school cannot have outdoor playground equipment or an outdoor space, that would certainly be within your purview.
Okay, I just don't want to give the impression that we're like saying it'll be okay in the future as long as you screen it a little bit, because I know the Planning Commission did have a lot of conversation about the outdoor playground.
Mr. Mayor?
Sorry, Councilmember Geisler?
So, trying to read the room a little, if my peers are looking to approve, to me, one of the comment, I absolutely think the 2,000 square foot gym inside is a big change and a positive thing for this school. Taking away any chance for kids to get outside, I think is a huge negative. I think kids do need to get outside. I think I see some of my scouts nodding their heads that, yeah, you want to be outside, and so to me, and I thought everything that I'd heard from the planning was more that it was 800 square feet. It was like half of a basketball court was the entire play area for the entire school, which was just not really reasonable. And if you look at where that was placed, it's now where they are going to put the bus drop-off. So it can't go there anymore and still have the same bus circulation. So to me, if you say yes, you've got a number of other dominoes that fall that we have to address, right? I have to address the fact of, do I truly need an outdoor play area for kids? I mean, I don't know if I'd want to send my kid to a school where they never go outside. They need fresh air. So if I'm going to have something outside, then that means I have to put it where the buses are going to be, which means I now have to move where the buses are going to be, and I need to put in the fencing and the screening, right? So there's a lot of other impacts that would happen, you know? So for me, if anybody was going to make a motion to approve, I would strongly suggest that any changes to the addition of an outdoor playground or bus drop-off that would require a site plan. I know that our current rules don't require a site plan when there is no exterior modification to the building, but you know, and you guys can tell me if that would not be possible. But to me, I would like to say, if we're going to, you know, change how this site is going to work, I would like to say, bring us a site plan, because then that site plan can go through planning and it can have the due diligence review of what would have to happen before it came to us. So I guess, Mr. Brody, even though a site plan is not mandated or required, could we put in our motion that if they're going to do those changes, that we could ask them to bring it to us as a site plan?
You know, to be honest, I haven't thought about it. I don't know if Mr. Brown has any. When the mayor raised that question about can we make them come back, that was my thought. I wanted to ask Mr. Brown, can we make them come back?
It seemed like I asked it in a lot fewer words than
I had more things.
And I'm not.
I think with use flexibility, there is enough discretion there, and I think, you know, addition of outdoor spaces relates to those three findings. I think that would be fair to add a condition or modify a condition that any addition of outdoor space would have to go back through an additional planning commission review of the use flexibility.
So to Councilmember Geisler's point, would it be reasonable to require a site plan then? I mean, or is that, isn't that kind of the question?
Because to
Right.
me, a site plan carries with it some other kind of provenance, right? And there's a process of how I review a site plan. There's that structure of that it goes through planning before it comes through council. And so that's where if we use the term site plan, it just, we can leverage all of that governance around that change that already exists.
Site. Okay. Councilmember Novak?
On the flip side of that, this is a charter school, and people can choose to send their children there or not based on the amenities that are there. So if the idea of not having an outdoor playground offends them, then they don't need to send their child there.
Well, yeah,
But in the future, if they wanted to make that change, it would be a very simple matter for the school to come back to us and say, we'd like to make this change, and we start that process at that point. Is that correct?
Well, that's what we're.
Well,
we're
I
asking,
understand
yeah.
that, but
Okay.
I mean,
I
that's where we're
believe-
going with
Yes,
this.
Your Honor, if you wanted to add a condition that said any addition of playground equipment or other outdoor spaces requires a site plan review that would go back through the process, I think that is fair and within your purview related to those.
I'm sorry, I guess
findings.
where I was going with that is we don't have to stop the process, we can just add that on.
Oh, no, right.
Right.
And that's where we were trying to get to there, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Carlson?
Yeah, and I actually, I support that idea, Councilmember Geisler, because the busing pattern was kind of focused around where that outdoor play area was. And again, to the school's credit and Mr. Hebert's credit, you know, we went from about 860 square feet to darn near 2,000 in a school that does not require a gym. And I also, yeah, I think it's one, and Boy Scouts, I know you guys like to be outside, right? But the truth of the matter is, parents who bring their children to a charter school have a choice on whether they want their children to be outside or in an inside gym or wherever they want. And so I support Councilmember Geisler's suggestion that there's some type of a condition that would come before council, because it would change the flow of traffic, and part of that changing of the traffic was one of the things that was brought out to address one of the concerns of the Planning Commission, so I certainly support that.
Your Honor.
Councilmember Rayrower?
So, again, after reviewing the Planning Commission, listening to their concerns, reviewing the location, looking at it, even with the changes, I still have strong concerns over parking, the lack of outdoor green space for playground time to run and play, and the effect on nearby businesses. So before we get down the road of amending the other possible motion, I would like to make a motion that for planning case 23-16, the motion is to deny use flexibility for a public charter school use at 3397 Coon Rapids Boulevard, based on the finding the proposed use would have an impact on future tenants and does not result in better integration of uses at the site.
Second.
So there's a motion by Rayrower and a second by Geisler to deny the use flexibility. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember
A
Griscoviac?
point of information, if the council votes on this and we don't deny, then do we have another motion to approve? Is that how that would work? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
That's what I would suggest.
yeah, we want to give them an action.
Right,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Okay, is there further discussion on that? So we have a motion to deny the use flexibility and a second. All in favor to deny, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. The motion fails 5-2. Basically, council members Geisler and Rayrower
Yep.
were in support, and the other 5 were
Yep.
against, correct?
Yep. So then, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
so let me try a reasonable motion for approval, okay?
Councilmember Geisler, can I just add one
Sure.
thing? What we're also doing, and we didn't necessarily address it in the last motion, is we're going to either affirm, amend, or reject the recommendation of Planning Commission. So I assume you're going to recommend, we're going to reject the recommendation of council and approve the use flexibility. So just
So I can preference that in my
recommendation.
motion. There, thank you, Mr. Brody. Yep. Okay.
preamble might be a little.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so I will make a motion to reject the decision of Planning Commission and make the motion in Planning Case 2316 to approve use flexibility for a public charter school use at 3397 Coon Rapids Boulevard with the following conditions. 1, ensure a buffer for student pickup and drop-off, bus and vehicle traffic, and concentrated in the parking lot to the west of the building as shown on the site plan. Number 2, any changes to exterior uses, like an outdoor playground or amenity in the future, will require a site plan review and approval prior to allowing permits. And to ensure efficient organization of the use, the school shall meet all required building codes and standards of the Minnesota Department of Education. Is 2 okay enough? Or
Is that clear enough, or do you
The only
want
thing, I think that's clear enough. The only thing is, it was actually a recommendation from Planning Commission, not a decision. I think I might have said decision and you repeated that.
Yep, so it says decision here, so reject the recommendation of planning. So we'll correct that portion of the motion.
Okay, so we have that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Geisler and a second by Griscoviac. Councilmember Carlson, are you okay with that?
I'm thoroughly satisfied with that, Mr. Mayor.
I was trying to read that look you were giving me.
I just have that look, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, discussion?
Further discussion.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, where I am all for the charter school, I think it's a good thing. I'm just very concerned that we haven't, when we vote on this, that we have limited the ability of a valuable business in our community to not be able to do and meet the competition in the future, that we know those laws are coming. And I certainly hope that the charter school is successful, and I certainly hope that our Boulevard Bar and Grill is also successful, and this does not impact their ability to do business effectively in the future.
For very selfish reasons, I agree with you.
I'm
That's one of
there
my favorite
at
places to
least
go.
once or twice a week.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we
Mr.
have
Mayor?
further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Armstrong?
Of course, since I'm the only one that hasn't weighed in. No, that being said, I would support the motion that Councilperson Geisler made. My biggest concerns with this initially was the outdoor play area. The parking wasn't a big deal, because if you've ever been to a certain business that's been mentioned before, there's always parking space available there, and hopefully would continue to be. But the other issue was the cannabinoids issue that's coming down the pike here as well. And seeing what the landlord, seeing what the charter school has gone through as far as changes from recommendations made, et cetera, the gymnasium wasn't my optimum choice, but it was significantly better than an outdoor asphalt playground. So it basically boiled down to the cannabinoids portion of it, and none of us know what the future has to say one way or the other as far as how it may or may not affect the business in question. And at the same time, the charter school, I think, is a really creative enterprise to be taking up, and I think it may not be the best place for it to be put, but I think it's something that would be of benefit to the city and giving parents and students a choice.
Very good. It spoke volumes to me that the owner of the insurance company showed up at the planning commission and spoke in support of it. You know, I'm sure he's tired of looking at all the empty spaces over there. So. All right, further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The motion carries, 1 no. Councilmember Rehrower. All right. Scouts, we're trying to move this along. You know, we're kind of dragging out here a little bit. All right. Item 8 is to consider Resolution 23-91, establishing the 2023 and 2024 Coon Rapids Ice Center rental rates and approve the fee structure. Mr. Stemwaddle, do you want to?
I'll defer to Ms. Ring.
Good evening.
Ms. Ring.
Good
Hi.
evening, Mayor and council members. What's before you is the 2023-24 ICE fee structure. Our season kicks off in September, so these fees come to you a little bit earlier than some other city fees. We look a lot at all of our fees, but particularly our prime ICE rate, which we are proposing about a 3.5% increase to $238 an hour, up from the $230. We also have some other rates for our non-prime and our outdoor ice going up by $5. There are some other rates that we increased just slightly because we've not looked at them for several years, and that's a $1 increase on public skating and our stick and puck and some of our other activities like that. If you have any other questions, I can go through anything you might have. Otherwise, this is to move forward with our rate charges for this season.
Given the rate of inflation, I'm thinking this is actually pretty good. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Ring?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Carlson?
Make a motion that we recommend City Council adopts resolution number 23-91, establishing 2023-2024 ice rental rates for the Coon Rapids Ice Center, and approve the 2023-2024 Coon Rapids Ice Center fee structure.
Second.
Okay, so there was a motion by Carlson and a second by, I'm going to give it to Armstrong. And just to clarify, we're adopting it, we're not recommending it, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. All in favor, I'm sorry, any discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Griscoviac?
I'd just like to make a point out that in the packet, there's a rate survey done with other communities and everything, and we're right in line with the rest of them. In fact, we're even, very competitive with the rest of them, so I'm happy with where we're going with this.
And there is nothing second-rate about our ice center. That
Right.
baby is state-of-the-art. She's beautiful.
Is that right?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. And now that we've established the rates, we're going to consider approval of the 2023-2024 Ice Center user contracts. And there are several of them. Is there anything you want to hit on, Ms. Ringer, or should we just go for it here?
There's not a whole lot to say other than this just solidifies our primary users. These groups use the most amount of ice in our facility, so we solidify their rates. It's the new rates for the season, and we welcome them back for a great season.
Absolutely. Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed 2023-2024 Coon Rapids Ice Center annual user contracts with the Anoka-Hennepin Independent School District Number 11, Coon Rapids Youth Hockey Association, the Minnesota Blue Ox, the Minnesota Sled Hockey Association, and Power Edge, and authorize city officials to execute accordingly.
Second?
Motion by Geisler and a second by Carlson. Is there further discussion on this? We just had a proposal from, not a proposal, a presentation from Jay Witta, the coach of the Blue Ox. And very impressive man, very impressive team, and they love the Ice Center. They just love being over there, so we're happy that they're re-signing again. And their season starts September 30th, and I'm dropping the puck. Ooh, yeah. All right, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 10 is to consider adoption of Resolution 23-89, initiating the organized waste collection statutory process. And Mr. Stemwedel, are we taking any action tonight other than just moving ahead with seeking information?
Mayor and Council, that is essentially what Council would be doing tonight. This would start an exploratory process. What's interesting about when you talk about waste collection, especially if City Council start talking about organized waste collection, it's heavily prescribed by the state government in terms of, by state statute, in terms of what that timeline looks like, what those actions can be. And that all boils down to history within the state of how these things were organized in the past and some of the challenges therein. And so several years ago, they revised that statute, play out this prescriptive process. The initial step in that process is to essentially for the city to announce we're exploring organized waste collection. What that does is put the public and the waste haulers on notice that the city is going to have those conversations. The first step in that is to have what's called a meet and confer meeting with the waste haulers. And as you saw in the resolution, that would be scheduled for September 26th, which would happen here in the council chambers. And essentially what that is a meeting between the city council and the waste haulers where the two groups would talk about, as prescribed in the statute, road deterioration, public safety, pricing mechanisms, contractual considerations unique to organized collection, and other topics that are germane to that subject. After which, if council still wanted to move forward with that, we'd come back to you in October with another resolution where you'd make another small incremental decision in this process, which would be to initiate a 60-day negotiation process with those haulers. The statutory process goes on from there. If the council were to go through it from step A to step Z, it's really about a 9-month process. Our timeline, if we were to get there, has a number of opportunities throughout the process for council to make a decision to stop the process where it's at and go no further. For public input, we've already launched a city website with some feedback forms available to the public on that. Things like public hearings, which would be well down the road in the process. But really what the timeline does is provide the council with an opportunity to start the process now, start to have those conversations, explore it more, and then a number of steps would be communicated to the public and to the haulers thereafter. So this is just the initial step to start that process and to explore it. And actually, I'll say that we probably have included more steps in the process than would be required by state statute by simply separating some of the steps into more than one. For example, the council could, in other cities have, initiated the meet and confer meeting and that 60-day process simultaneously, where after that meeting occurs, the next day, the 60-day negotiation period could start. We've split those up where we'd come back to you before we start that process. They'd get re-noticed about that 60-day process, and we'd go on from there, and we'd come back to you a couple months later with that information. So that's what this is really about tonight. There's more information included in the packet that I won't go through because it would take me about another half an hour to get through it all. I will mention Ms. Colleen Sinclair, our local waste and recycling expert, is in the room, has at least provided some notice to the haulers that council would be considering this tonight. As I mentioned last Wednesday, some information was sent out to the public to make them aware that that conversation was potentially being started, then it's before you tonight.
And if the waste haulers want to bring lobbyists or their coalition, that 3 weeks from tonight, then they can share with council all of their concerns, everything to do with this, correct?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I would say any of the haulers, if they have representatives that they'd like to bring and have speak on behalf of their clients or whomever, that would be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because all this is, and I don't know who all is here for hauling and who's here for other things, we're just getting information. There's definitely not a majority in this council that's driving for organized hauling. We appreciate free market. We just need more information. And that's the process we're in. And 3 weeks from tonight, we'll have a meeting with the haulers and their representatives, and maybe that'll be enough, or who knows? Okay.
Your Honor?
Go ahead, Councilmember Raybauer.
Just to add to, what you both were sharing on that is just highlighting again that we're not making a decision. We don't have an agenda. I don't have an agenda. It's really just engaging in an informational process. And it came about for me specifically because residents have inquired with questions like, would it save money on roads? So we want to find out the answers to those questions through this process.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
Yeah, so, I've already gotten a number of calls and things on this, and for me, it's just to note that, our staff already spends time getting complaints about waste haulers, but because we don't control any of the waste haulers, there's nothing we can do about the waste haulers, right? And the other thing is, I know that for every person, it's about a me, and it's my waste hauler and my garbage day and my services and my choice, right? I totally get the me. Well, for me sitting here, I have to take a we view. It's what is the right thing for the city of Coon Rapids? What is the right thing for the residents of Coon Rapids? And right now, I don't know. But I won't be able to know yay or nay unless we ask the questions and get the data. So that's all we're trying to do right now, is to learn and be informed so we can make better choices and help, if it turns out that our residents and our city can save a significant amount of money by doing this, it would make sense. If our city doesn't make sense financially for our citizens or the city, then we don't do it, but we don't know unless we ask the questions.
And to Mr. Stemweddle's point, this is a very long process.
It is.
That once we get information, then we'll have public hearings and everybody will be able to talk. And you can send us all of your concerns. We're already getting both already.
Yep.
But frankly, I want the system to play out. I want to hear it. I want to see some of the ups and downs so that I've got more answers for people that ask me in the future.
You're right.
Councilmember Novak and then
I couldn't
Councilmember Carlson.
say that any better. I've heard both sides very strongly, and personally, I'm completely ambivalent. I wasn't even aware this was a big issue until just a couple of months ago. So, yeah, I really just need to get more information.
Councilmember Carlson?
And there's a lot of passion on both sides, and I respect.
absolutely.
I respect the passion, and I respect the opinion on both sides totally. I was talking to a resident today who just, maybe when he called, he wasn't aware that I've had calls from people on the other side who want organized hauling. So I am completely neutral to this matter, and I have absolute utmost respect for people on both sides. I understand the issue on both sides. And so we've been kind of kicking this can down the road. I know it's been coming, I've only been on the council for, since 2021, but I've been hearing about it, since, and I'm sure it was Mr. Mayor before that, and it was addressed about, 15 years ago? Was it?
Yeah, something like that,
Maybe.
13 years
But
ago, whatever
we've
it
been
was.
kind of like kicking the can down the road, saying, no, let's not talk about that. Well, let's, this way, at least we can talk about it, let it go through the process, and slow walk it, and come up with what we, end up ultimately voting on as a council, what we think is the best plan for the city.
There did not used to be all these statutory processes in place. And the council tried to have a conversation about this before any of us were on the council. And I was home watching it on TV, and I went, oh, this is going to be a circus tonight. And I came up here in the cars were parked up and down Robinson Drive. The parking lot was packed. There were monitors out there. There were people everywhere. And it was just short of pitchforks and torches. So we know this, we recognize this is a very, very, like Councilmember Carlson said, there's passions on both sides of this. All we want is information. We just want information. I don't think I could be more ambivalent about this. So, but I'm not willing to make it a yes or no decision until I see more information, And then it's gonna have to be pretty compelling, because I'm a big freedom of choice, freedom of, who do you want to do your business with, So I respect that.
Your
So,
Honor.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Armstrong and then Councilmember Ray Rower.
What has me interested in this one is, for the last several years, you've heard transparency. We all want transparency. We want to have people tell us the truth, what's going on. And I'm actually, in my own little way, looking forward to this, to see how the process works all the way through. I really couldn't care one way or the other. As long as my trash is getting picked up, I don't care who's doing it. But at the same token, I know there's certain things that I'm very passionate about that I want people to leave alone because it's mine. So that being said, again, I wanna give a good shout out to the staff and the city, that the members that have been involved in this before it even got to us, because they're doing a lot to provide us information, share what they're finding out, so that hopefully, as we're going through this process, you're getting all that information as well, and see where it ends up.
To interject, not to throw staff under the bus, we asked them to bring us this information. They didn't just start putting this information together and then go, hey, this is a great idea. We said, get us more information. So, sorry, were you done?
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. I've only been here 8 months, so.
We don't like to throw staff under the bus. It'll come back to haunt you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
But Councilmember Ray Rower first.
I just wanted to add one more thing. I just want to assure everyone that this is a very thoughtful and thorough council that we have here. Every member on this council is thoughtful and thorough and doesn't make hasty decisions. And that each and every one of us will be listening to the public and hearing from our residents and taking all of the comments we get over the next, months and months, and really thinking through them. Thank you.
Councilmember Geisler?
I was going to go to a motion. So I will make a motion to adopt Resolution 23-89, initiating the statutory process for considering organized waste collection.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Novak. That is very, the language sounds like we're really doing something, so I get it. But we're not. We're not really doing anything yet.
We're scheduling a meeting.
If we're scheduling a meeting, is all we're doing. All right. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Griscoviac?
To your point, it does sound like we're taking some serious action here tonight, but I just want to make sure and clarify. We are not entering into any kind of legal process to negotiate a contract with the haulers or anything like that. And to your point, Mayor, we want this to play out. We asked for this. We want it to play out in full transparency. A question for staff in here. When that meeting to meet and confer with the haulers, will that meeting include some of the public? Will it include city staff, the council? How does that meet and confer meeting play out? Because we all want the public to be a part of this.
Mayor and council, Councilmember Briscoe, yeah, the meeting is a public meeting. Any meeting with a quorum of the city council is, by its nature, a public meeting, so it'll get noticed. It'll be held here in the council chambers. It would be coordinated much the same way a council work session would be, where the city council, the mayor in this case, has the authority to recognize people to speak. In this case, it's sort of implied that the haulers and their representatives of the company would be able to speak and have that back and forth dialogue. Like with any of our work sessions, if the council or the mayor felt compelled to allow any sort of public comment, whether that was a question or something of that nature, theoretically, you could do that, although I would say in that setting, that would be challenging, given really the ideas for the conversation between the mayor and the council, but the public could be there listening, observing that sort of thing. There are other opportunities for public input and comment throughout the process, some formal, some informal. So I would say I would probably recommend not allowing public comment at that meeting, simply because that could get a little unwieldy, and you really want to save those opportunities for a time when it's more constructive. But much like a work session, if the public wants to sit in the background and observe and take notes, there's nothing wrong with that.
And answer your question?
I think so, and the only reason I brought that up is because the step 2 on this would be negotiating with the haulers, and then staff would come up to us. But, I mean, if you're negotiating with the haulers, and we haven't had the opportunity to have a public hearing for the public to pipe in, how do we negotiate in good faith with the haulers without more public input? See what I'm saying?
No, I understand, but we don't have the facts to give to the public yet to have them comment on them. I mean, it's negotiating with the haulers that I think is going to give us more information that we can put out on a fact sheet. Mr. Stemwell?
Mayor and council, the next step after the 60-day negotiation, if the council decided to say, yes, we at least want to take that next step in the statutory process, there's this 60-day window. I think the statute is basically saying if the parties can come to an agreement about how they'll, some sort of consortium hauling model, I'll take this corner, you take that, you know what, that works out good for us, we're all happy, we go on. Regardless of whether the two parties come to agreement or they don't, there's still mandatory public input pieces in the next step. So in the case where you do come to agreement, the city council provides public notice and holds a public hearing of the proposed agreement of the two parties. If you don't come to an agreement, which frankly is the more likely scenario, I think that has played out in other cities, not all, but in most, where now the city has to form a committee. That committee includes haulers and includes the public. That committee makes recommendations to the city council. Once those recommendations have made, then you hold a formal public hearing. So if you don't come to agreement, it's just a longer process with more steps. If you do come into some sort of agreement, it's a shorter process, but still has mandatory public hearing or public input components to it before the city council can make a decision about whether or not to move forward.
Okay.
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 All right. We have a motion and a second. Do we have further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Just looking for information. So the emails that, why are you doing this? It's like, well, we're doing this for information. That's where we're doing it. All right. Number 11, item 11, I should say. Consider Resolution 23-88, establishing the preliminary 2024 tax levy. Ms. Hanson, you can hit the highlights on this one?
I will take that, Mr. Mayor. The council is being asked tonight to establish a proposed tax levy for 2024 as required by state statute. Following a discussion we had at a work session last month, the proposed tax levy is $35,580,233. This represents a 6.8% increase over the prior year's levy. The levy can be reduced before final certification in December, but cannot be increased. This levy will be used by Anoka County to create the truth in taxation notices that will be hitting residents' mailboxes in November, ahead of the truth in taxation public hearing that is scheduled for December 5th. We do have a copy of the proposed budget on our city website, and I just want to highlight a couple factors. So our proposed levy combined with the value for pay 2024, we are looking at a preliminary tax rate of 36.66. So this is a slight difference than what's on the memo, as I just received information from the county today, this morning, with revised value information. So just a slight increase from this year's rate. We again are a net gainer on fiscal disparities, received more than we contributed. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we're asking adoption of the resolution.
Ms. Hanson, what did you say that tax rate was then, 36 something?
So it's estimated at 36.666.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Hanson? We appreciate all the work that goes into this. We know the staff starts on this in April, starts meeting with council in May on it, and it's just, it seems like as soon as we get to the next year, we're starting in the next budget again already.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Carlson?
Yeah, that's a great point, Mr. Mayor. This is was not just a quick discussion where we came up with this preliminary number. This is a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth. And so, yeah, kudos to the staff, and again, there was a lot of things going on to work to this number.
We were fortunate to have some public safety funds to cover our extra police staff we were suddenly had on the payroll when they came out of the schools, but.
For now.
Mr. Mayor?
All right, Councilmember Geisler?
Yeah, and just, this is early, so this number is what, like Ms. Hanson said, goes on the truth and taxation mailing that you'll get in your mail probably in about November, so 6-8 weeks. And what you need to look at is that's also, there's all kinds of crazy formulas that the state uses for, okay, this is how much, and then how do we allocate that out based on if it's a residential property or a business property or an industrial, all of the different kinds of properties within our city pay a portion of those taxes. And so, well, we're saying 6.8, that's not necessarily what's going to be on your taxes. Because if the value of your home stayed static, home values didn't rise like they have in the last few years. So the percentage of allocation of taxes to housing is lower. So the increase and decrease for your home is going to be different than that number. And it's just a crazy calculation. And people will always come back and they'll say, well, the value of my house is wrong. Well, we're like, sorry. You have to argue the value of your house back in April. So it's a long, drawn-out process. But I think, again, our staff did a great job in looking at we need to be able to maintain the services in our community, and to be able to do that is what's in this budget.
It reflects our priorities. So.
Yep.
All right. Somebody feels strongly enough to actually move it then?
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 23-88, establishing the preliminary 2024 tax levy for the city of Coon Rapids.
Second?
Motion by Geisler and a second by Carlson. Is there further discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Kraskowiak?
I'd just like to point out, yeah, we did put a lot of work into this. This is a thoughtful budget. It's efficient use of taxpayer money. I mean, we had those meetings where every facet of city operations is involved in this thing, and having one-to-one conversations with staff and all these heads of all these different departments to come to this. Quite frankly, some of those staff and some of these city operations are asking for more money. And we look at it and say, we've got taxpayers that we've got to answer to, so we got to make sure it's super efficient and it's a good use of the tax money, and we've done that. We've had some negotiations back and forth to get it to a number that we are seeing here tonight. And this goes in front of Anoka County, and it can't go up from there, but it could go down. So if we see something that comes through and provides a little bit of relief, we'll be looking at that as well.
Okay. Further discussion? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. And we are on to open mic. Is anybody here to address council for open mic this evening? Open mic provides an opportunity for the public to address the city council on subjects that are not part of the regular meeting agenda. The public is invited to express any concerns they may have which are relevant to the affairs, policies, or practices of the city of Coon Rapids, and remarks will be limited to 3 minutes. Is anybody here for open mic? Yes, please go ahead. Please approach the podium, state your name and address before addressing the council. All remarks will be made from the podium and addressed to the council. And it's not a time for problem solving or reacting, but for hearing the speaker for informational purposes only. Any questions from council will be for clarification only, and if necessary, a staff report will be prepared for the next regular council meeting with a copy forwarded to the speaker. Okay, name and address, 3 minutes.
Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Don Heitmiller. I live and own 10038 Butternut Street Northwest in Coon Rapids, obviously. I'd like to talk to you for less than 3 minutes about trash, but not what you're thinking, perhaps.
Okay.
I wanted to try to improve the curb appeal of my house, and I don't like the look of the trash bins that sit in front of my garage, and I'm not able to put them along the side of my house because that would interfere with gaining access into my front door. So I went ahead and built a little enclosure that surrounds the trash bins, put it immediately adjacent to the driveway. So it's just like a little miniature privacy fence that encloses it, and subsequently was informed that that's a violation of city code because it's an accessory structure and cannot be located within 35 feet of the front lot line, and also that garbage and recycling containers must be, again, beyond that 35-foot lot line. So I don't know how you go about getting you to consider something, but I'm wondering if that's something that could be possibly changed. I did speak with the property maintenance inspector, and she said, you know, it looked nice, but she's doing her job, obviously, and following the code. She said that this is like the second time that it's happened in her experience, so it's not something that comes up very frequently, but is there an opportunity to change the city code to allow garbage cans to be built, to improve the curb appeal?
Mm-hmm. I think, before I was ever on the council, I was a city council junkie, used to watch all the meetings. And I remember them talking about this, I'll bet it was 15 years ago, talking about screening or figuring out where to put them. I don't think they resolved anything, no.
I don't know if you're interested. I have a photo.
Anything you want to leave, you can leave with the city clerk. and
Okay.
She'll make sure she gets it out to us.
Okay.
And, yeah, thank you very much.
So how do I?
Well, you're gonna get a response from staff.
Okay.
And then council will probably have a conversation about it at some point.
Okay.
There's no short answer for this. There's something called the speed of government.
Yeah.
And even if we all thought, wow, that's a great idea, it still plods along.
Okay.
But thank you for bringing it in, and leave the information with city clerk, and.
Thank you.
And then reach out to your council member too.
I have.
Okay. I already did. All right. Anybody else here to address council for open mic? Okay. Hello.
My name's Amy Laszlo, address 12373 Ilex Street Northwest. Here to talk about the geese again. I was driving through Bunker Hills again, and I saw geese back on the golf course. And that's probably because geese are out of their flightless period now. They're done molting. The adult geese can fly again. But I think to me this just proves that when the geese are rounded up, they're during their flightless period. They can't leave The babies can't fly yet. This usually lasts 4 to 5 weeks. Adults are molting as well, meaning they're losing their feathers so they can grow new ones in, and then they fly away. But this is just a continual problem. So I'm estimating that we probably spent as a city about $2,500 in 2023 to round up and kill the geese that were taken back in June. I just got the information back, and it was 10 adults taken from Rocket Turf and 20 goslings, and it was 8 adults geese taken from Bunker Hills and 19 goslings. The goslings are held until they get bigger before they kill them, and by this time they probably could have flown away, but this is a perpetual problem. So we temporarily solve this problem by having the geese rounded up in June. We know more geese are going to come back next year. They're going to be on the golf course. They're going to be on Rocket Turf. They're going to come back in August as they're migrating. So it's a very temporary solution. And I would again just like to ask the council members to talk to their staff and explore other options and explore humane options. There are things like egg addling, where you can add or take eggs out even, and add in fake eggs essentially to help control the population, which helps control some of the mess. There's just more humane ways to do this rather than continuing to just round them up, kill them. Let's do it again next year because we know they're going to come back. There's also things like habitat modification and other things that can be done to help reduce the nuisance that it causes some people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else to address council for open mic?
Hi, my name is Jessica Barr. I'm actually in a neighboring community. I live right on the border of Coon Rapids. I'm at 116 91st Lane Northeast in Blaine. I'm also concerned about the geese being killed at Bunker Hills. I drive past Bunker Hills. I'm within the community. I've been in animal rescue for 13 years, so to see more animals suffering, it just breaks my heart. And I am tired of volunteering hundreds of hours helping animals and then to just see a never-ending line of animals suffering. But we know that there's a humane solution out there, and you have the power to help reduce the suffering that's currently going on. And we know it's a revolving cycle every year. The Humane Society of the United States has humane alternative solutions available for population reduction. Like she said, you put corn oil on the eggs or remove them early. It's best to, prevent that gosling from being born and having them suffer, and just kind of keep it at that egg stage where you're kind of minimizing that harm, or we want to minimize the suffering as much as possible. So, catching this early rather than letting them develop. And then, there's also, scare tactics. So there's actually, goose herding dogs that can be used by, trainers and, basically making the environment an area where the geese feel like they're not safe in that area and they won't continue to go there. There's also, you can have, lasers or light emitting devices or fog or, anything, that would prevent them from roosting there at night, just making it undesirable. You can help, plant trees along shorelines, separating the waterways from their food, which is, the grassy areas, because they want to make sure they're safe from predators. So they need to be able to escape, towards the waterway away from predators. So, we can kind of help landscape in order to make it a less desirable area for geese. But you also want to make sure that you have an area that is kind of a safe space for these geese. So an area nearby where, they, once they get scared away, they have an area to go to where they're left alone, and they will go towards this area where it's okay for them to be at, and, kind of they're staying away from where we don't want them. So there's many different ways. I'm sure she sent you some resources, but we want to reduce sufferings. So thank you for considering.
I thought she had notes. I think she had a timer. Hit that right on the post. Is anybody else here to address council for open mic this evening? All right, well, then let's close the open mic portion. I don't have any reports on any previous open mics. Other business. We have our Love My Pet coming up September 16th,
Yep.
10 to 1:30. Oh, I keep forgetting you're here tonight.
Steph has all the details.
Ms. Ring.
I can talk about that a minute if you'd like to. Our team is very excited for this year's Love My Pet Fair. We have 26 vendors, so more vendors than ever. It is Saturday, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at Riverview Park. Thanks to a donation from the Community Strength Foundation, we have some new activities. The Teddy Bear Band will be there. Families can come out with their pets and their kids and rock out to the Teddy Bear Band. We'll have a bouncy house. Our new mascot of Rocky will be doing a possum pet walk, where we'll be doing some tricks with the dogs and have some contests. And we have the favorites such as the Canine Demo with our Coon Rapids Police Department, our pet costume contest, games, cakewalk, all kinds of fun. So it's free and it's a lot of fun. So we hope for great weather. That's always the challenge. And we expect a bigger and better event this year.
And are we going to have Councilmember Carlson in that Rocky suit that day? I'd like to see if it's, we
Well.
can use it as a bite suit too.
Mr. Mayor? I'm not just throwing my services out there, Mr. Mayor, but I was a bear in the Teddy Bear Band one time because they were short someone. I just want everyone to know that. But I'll throw on Rocky one of these days, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Geisler?
Ms. Ring, I've had a couple of different questions, and I just want to make sure that we have this correct information. There were people asking about, we used to do licensing, and because we don't have that, we won't license at the fair. And then we also don't do vaccinations at the fair. Is that correct? Can you confirm?
That is correct. We are not doing a vaccination clinic this year, and I don't know if Ms. Lensmeyer wants to talk about anything regarding the licensing, but that is no longer a requirement. So the vaccinations are not something we're putting on this year. That is a change.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. And it's open to your well-behaved pets.
Yes.
Gotta get that in there.
Got to get that, well, it's important because there's some of you going, what are you doing here? All right, other business?
Mr. Mayor, I think there's a couple of, Ms. Ring may want to talk about those. There's the senior newsletter that just came out, as well as our city newsletter, which if you don't, it's in your mail. See, there, yes, you know. It's a wealth of information about what's going on in the city, and our communication staff does a phenomenal job with that piece of information. So please take it out of the mailbox, please read it, keep it around, recycle it when you're done, but anything you want to know about what's going on in the city is usually in that paper, so.
I have a more than passing interest, and I go through there with my phone, and I just get all the appointments in there, and it's great information. Okay, and then the Wednesday farmers market still going on through October.
Correct.
Wednesday 3 to 6 at the Ice Center.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other business to come before council? Anything we're missing?
One quick plug.
Maybe.
Right back
Councilmember
to-
Armstrong.
Right back to the paper again.
Yeah.
My wife, who I dearly love,
That's
read
good.
this thing from cover to cover, and she told me to tell staff that they did a phenomenal job because there's a ton of information in here going all the way through like December.
Yep, all the
So
way
if
through
you
the
want to
tree
know what's
lighting in
going
December.
on, it's in here.
Mr. Mayor, one of the other things just to bring up is near Mercy Hospital, there's Mercy Park, and Mercy Park is currently under renovation, and it's going to be a more accessible type of park because it's a partnership with Mercy Hospital to put this together, and I don't know if I can see, or Mr. Himmer, if you know when we are expecting the construction to be done?
Oh.
He's back there.
I'm looking all over going, Mr. Himmer's still here?
I saw him. But there was a $40,000 donation from Mercy Hospital to do this park, and it's got some adaptive play areas, and it should be a great park when it's done.
Materials are on site, workers delivered other equipment today. It'll probably be raining today or tomorrow, but they think probably in the next 2 weeks it'll be up and operational.
Awesome. Thank you for the information.
You did really good, too, because you were thinking while you were walking.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Novak?
One last thing. I want to offer congratulations to the Cub Masters of my alma mater, because these guys have sat through one of the longer meetings this year, and they've done an awesome job.
You did pick one of the longer meetings.
You did.
Yeah.
Not by design, I'm sure, but, all right. Okay, we done?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Carlson, second by Geisler to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. There's what you were waiting for, guys.